Estate looked too beautiful to hold cruelty. Golden afternoon sunlight poured through the mansion's towering glass windows and spread across the white marble foyer like warm water. Crystal chandeliers glittered overhead. A sweeping staircase curved down from the second floor, framed by gold architectural details, expensive artwork, and floral arrangements tall enough to hide a person behind. Everything inside the estate was polished. The floors, the silver trays, the family portraits, the lies. Amara Okonkwo stood near the entrance in an immaculate luxury housekeeping uniform, holding a folded guest cloth over one arm. Her curls were gathered neatly beneath an elegant maid's hairstyle, her posture straight, her expression calm. She had already welcomed 3 cousins, 2 family elders, 1 drunk nephew pretending not to be drunk, and an aunt who handed her a fur coat, without once looking at her face. Today was an inheritance and estate management gathering. That was the official reason. The true reason was that Baek Do-hwan had called his family home because money had gone missing, antiques had disappeared, and staff had begun leaving without explanation. The family thought they had come to negotiate. The staff knew something else. A house meeting was coming. Amara felt it in the way the bodyguards stood closer to the walls. In the way attorney Han Yuejin arrived with 2 sealed folders. In the way Do-hwan had not yet appeared. Then Baek Yeonri entered. She arrived late, wrapped in pale designer silk, diamond earrings trembling beneath a perfect jawline. Her perfume reached the foyer before her voice did. "Why is she at the entrance again?" Yeonri asked, not softly. Amara bowed with professional control. "Good afternoon, Miss Baek." Yeonri smiled. Not kindly. "Your pronunciation still sounds heavy." A few relatives laughed under their breath. Amara kept her eyes level. "May I take your coat?" Yeonri looked her up and down. Imported help should at least learn to sound grateful. Mrs. Jeom Sora, the chief housekeeper, stood near the side corridor. Her face tightened, but she gave Amara the smallest warning look. Endure. Amara had seen that look many times. Endure the spilled tea. Endure the wrong name. Endure being called girl by someone barely older than herself. Endure the comments about her skin, her accent, her body, her family, her country, her place. Endure because wages mattered. Endure because her younger brother Ken's architecture scholarship depended on money she sent every month. Endure because rich families could ruin staff faster than staff could explain themselves. Yeonri lifted one foot, showing a jeweled ankle strap. "Fix this." Amara looked at the shoe, then at Yeonri. "There is a dressing attendant available upstairs." I said fix it. Relatives paused. The foyer quieted. Amara's voice stayed calm. "I am assigned to foyer reception, Miss Baek." Yeonri stepped closer, her smile thinning. "You people come here and forget what work means." Mrs. Jeom took one step forward. "Miss Baek, I can call." "No." Yeonri raised a hand without looking at her. "She can do it." Amara folded the guest cloth once. "No." The word landed harder than a shout. Yeonri's eyes widened. "What did you say?" "I said no." A cousin muttered, "This is why staff are becoming impossible." Yeonri reached out and grabbed Amara's wrist. Her nails pressed into skin. "You should remember whose house you are standing in." Amara looked down at the hand on her wrist, then up at Yeonri. "Remove your hand." Yeonri leaned closer. "Or what?" Amara's voice lowered. "I am warning you." Yeonri's mouth curved. Then she said something about Amara's mother. Something filthy. Something meant to drag family into the marble and make the room laugh. Amara felt the last thread inside her snap clean. Yeonri's hand lifted first. Amara moved once. Fast. Controlled. The sound cracked through the foyer. Yeonri froze with one hand near her cheek, eyes wide with absolute disbelief. Amara's hand was already down. Her back remained straight. Her voice did not shake. "I warned you not to put your hands on me again." The family gasped. Bodyguards shifted. Someone whispered, "She is finished." Then footsteps sounded from the staircase. Baek Do-hwan descended in a black suit, his face colder than the marble beneath him. Everyone turned. Yeonri's eyes filled instantly. "Appa," she cried. "She struck me?" Do-hwan looked at Amara first. Then Yeonri. Then the red marks on Amara's wrist. His voice was quiet. Who touched who first? The room stopped breathing. Baek Yeonri had never been denied an audience for her pain. Even when she invented it. She pressed one hand against her cheek and let tears gather prettily. Appa, are you serious? She assaulted me in your house. A family elder stepped forward, outraged. Du Hwan, this cannot be tolerated. Staff must know limits. Fire her immediately, another relative said. Call the police. Have her removed. Someone whispered deported, thinking the word quietly enough to become respectable. Amara heard it.
So did Du Hwan.
His eyes moved across the family, one face at a time. He did not shout. He did not defend. He did not comfort his sister. He asked again, who touched who first? Yeonri's crying faltered. That is not the point. It is the only point. Uncle Baek Munsik moved from beside a marble column, smooth in a navy suit, his expression carrying the practiced sadness of a man who enjoyed control but preferred others to call it wisdom. Nephew, Munsik said, the household cannot function if servants are allowed to strike family. Du Hwan looked at him. The household cannot function if family are allowed to handle staff. Munsik's smile tightened. Yeonri's voice rose. She disrespected me. Amara finally spoke. I will accept consequences for defending myself, she said. I will not apologize for refusing to be handled. The foyer shifted. Not loudly. But something in Du Hwan's face changed. Perhaps respect. Perhaps recognition. Perhaps anger arriving at its proper address. He turned to his security chief. Display the foyer footage. Yeonri blinked. Footage. Du Hwan did not answer. A wall panel slid open above the side console, revealing a large screen usually used for estate announcements. The security chief tapped a tablet, and the footage appeared. The family watched themselves become evidence. Yeonri entering. Yeonri insulting Amara. Yeonri demanding the shoe strap. Yeonri grabbing Amara's wrist. The close-up angle caught her nails pressing into Amara's skin. Then Yeonri leaning forward, mouth shaping words ugly enough that the relatives suddenly stopped breathing. Then Yeonri raising her hand. Then Amara defending herself. The recording stopped. No one spoke. The marble foyer seemed brighter now, as if the sunlight had become less decorative and more accusing.
Du Hwan looked at Yeonri.
She lowered her hand from her cheek. Appa, I was angry. You are cruel. She is staff. She is a person. The sentence struck harder, because he said it simply. Munsik cleared his throat. Family matters should not be judged by cameras. Du Hwan turned to him. That is exactly why this family needed cameras. A few relatives looked away. Du Hwan pointed toward the mansion entrance. Leave. Yeonri stared. What?
You.
And everyone who demanded punishment before evidence. A cousin scoffed nervously. Du Hwan, do not be dramatic. Du Hwan looked at the bodyguards. Escort them. The room erupted. Voices overlapped. Yeonri cried louder. An aunt demanded respect. A cousin threatened press. Munsik whispered for everyone to calm down, but his eyes were already calculating. The bodyguards moved. Not violently. Efficiently. Yeonri stepped backward, stunned as the mansion staff opened the grand doors. You are choosing a maid over your sister? Du Hwan's face did not soften. I am choosing the truth over a family habit. Yeonri's mouth trembled with fury. She struck me. Du Hwan's answer was quiet enough that everyone leaned in despite themselves. After you forgot she was human. And for the first time in Jaewolmaru estate, Baek Yeonri was escorted through doors she had always believed existed only for other people. Amara had entered Jaewolmaru estate 5 months earlier through a luxury estate staffing agency that warned her twice about discretion. The Baek family is particular, the recruiter had said. Particular meant rich enough to be unkind without consequence. At first, Amara believed excellence would protect her. She arrived early. Learned the estate floor plan in 3 days. Memorized guest preferences, art handling rules, floral schedules, dining protocols, wardrobe requirements, antique cleaning restrictions, and which family elders preferred silence over greeting. Mrs. Giam noticed. You work like someone who expects the room to test you, she once said. Amara smiled. Most rooms do. But no amount of professionalism satisfied Yeonri. The first week, Yanri spilled red wine across a sitting room rug and told guests Amara had carried the tray carelessly. The second week, she demanded Amara reclean a suite that had already passed inspection because she claimed it smelled foreign. The third, she placed a diamond hairpin behind a sofa cushion and accused Amara of losing it. The fourth, she mocked Amara's voice in front of visiting cousins until a junior maid cried from embarrassment on Amara's behalf. Amara did not shout. She documented
Dates, times,
locations, witnesses, object values,
guest names,
security camera angles, every insult that crossed into workplace abuse, every missing inventory item blamed on staff, every false damage report staff were told to sign, every payroll entry that did not match hours worked. She kept the notebook hidden inside a loose panel beneath the narrow dresser in her staff room. Not for revenge, for survival. Because Amara had learned that when a powerful house finally accused you, memory alone was not enough. Her younger brother, Nkem, called from his dorm every Sunday. He was studying architecture and believed buildings could change how people felt about their lives. "How is the mansion?" he asked once. Amara looked around her small room, where her uniform hung perfectly pressed and her feet ached from 14 hours of invisible work. "Beautiful," she said. "That is not what I ask." She smiled despite herself. Nkem knew her too well. After a pause, she said, "Some houses are beautiful because everyone inside is afraid to make noise." He became quiet. "Sister, leave if they hurt you." "I am not hurt. You only say that when you are." Amara looked at the envelope of money she had set aside for his school expenses. "I am careful." Careful became her language. She watched Uncle Munsik enter restricted storage rooms late at night. She watched Yanri's assistant sign for luxury linens that never reached the household inventory. She watched staff overtime disappear from payroll sheets. She watched antique side tables leave for restoration and never return. At first, she thought cruelty was the sickness of the house. Then she realized it was the smoke. The fire was theft, and the cruelty kept everyone too afraid to report the smell. The Beck family called Duhuan cold because he had stopped paying for their chaos with a smile. They lived in apartments he funded, drove cars his offices insured, used doctors as security vetted, sent children abroad through accounts he maintained, and walked into Jayawalmaru estate as if dependence were ownership. They resented him for the same money they demanded. Amara had seen it long before the audit. Aunties ordering staff to pack luxury gift baskets and bill them as estate hospitality. Cousins using drivers for private gambling trips. Yanri hosting after-hours parties in rooms listed as closed for restoration. Uncle Munsik signing repair invoices with amounts large enough to renovate walls that had never been touched. Beck Duhuan had seen it too, more than the family understood. Attorney Han Yuejin arrived that afternoon with a calm face and 2 sealed folders because Duhuan had already begun the investigation. The gathering was never only about inheritance. It was a trap with chandeliers. In a private study before the foyer confrontation, Duhuan reviewed the preliminary audit. Staff payroll inflated, but workers unpaid. Imported wine missing, but invoices doubled. Antiques checked out for restoration, but never checked back in. Luxury linen contracts issued to a company linked to Munsik's driver. Flower budgets for charity events redirected to Yanri's private parties. Household staff accounts used for personal shopping. Attorney Han turned a page. "There is one complication." Duhuan looked up. "The staff fear retaliation. Most will not testify." "Because of my family." "Yes." Duhuan's expression did not change, but the air around him seemed to cool. Attorney Han continued. "There is one exception. Someone has been keeping independent notes. We do not have the notebook yet, but Mrs. Jiam believes it exists." "Who?" Before Han could answer, raised voices echoed from the foyer. Then the sound of a slap cracked through the mansion.
Duvan Sotod.
By the time he reached the staircase, he saw everything. His sister performing injury. His family rushing toward punishment. Amara standing straight with a red mark forming around her wrist. And Munsik watching not like a shocked uncle, but like a man measuring whether a useful fire had grown too large. After the first footage exposed Yanri, Munsik tried to move the relatives out quickly.
Duvan Ochisid.
That was when he turned to Attorney Han. Do not cancel the audit. Han's eyes shifted toward the foyer. Where would you like to continue? Du Huan looked down at the family still gathered beneath the chandeliers. Move it to the foyer. The bodyguard stopped the relatives before they could reach the cars. That was when panic truly began. Being expelled was humiliation. Being kept was danger. Du Huan stood at the center of the foyer, black suit sharp against the white marble, while Attorney Han connected a secure drive to the wall screen. Mun-sik smiled thinly. Public theater does not suit you, nephew. No, Du Huan said. But it suits people who only understand witnesses. The screen changed. Footage from the past 6 weeks appeared. Yanri in the West Salon, tipping tea onto a carpet and pointing at a junior maid. Yanri in the guest hall, laughing as she made Amara polish the same silver tray 4 times. Yanri near the staircase, telling a cousin she would get the 4-in-1 fired before winter because Amara's face irritated her. A family and ordering staff to carry private shopping bags into a restricted storage corridor. A cousin removing a small bronze sculpture from a side table and handing it to a driver. Then Mun-sik. The foyer went very still. Mun-sik appeared on camera entering the restricted art storage room after midnight with 2 assistants. The next clip showed invoices. Restoration work billed. No restoration completed. Wine inventory signed out for charity dinners that never happened. Luxury linen deliveries marked received, then redirected. Payroll records listing staff who had never worked at the estate. Ghost names. Real money. Du Huan let the silence widen. Then Mrs. Jiam stepped forward. Her face looked older than it had that morning. I can confirm the staff abuse timeline, she said. Yanri turned on her. You too. Mrs. Jiam did not look away. I taught her to endure, because I forgot endurance is not justice. Amara stared at her. For months, she had believed Mrs. Jiam's silence meant surrender. Maybe it had. But here she was, voice shaking, standing in front of the family anyway. Du Huan turned to Amara. Do you have records? The foyer looked at her. This was the moment she had feared. The notebook had protected her only while hidden. Once given, it became a weapon everyone could see. Amara thought of Nkem, of Rent, of the recruiter's warning, of Yanri's nails on her wrist, of every staff member who had learned to swallow humiliation because the house paid on time. She lifted her chin. Yes. A junior maid ran to retrieve it from Amara's room under Mrs. Jiam's instruction. When the notebook reached Du Huan, he opened it carefully. The first page was written in Amara's clean, controlled handwriting. He read aloud. A house does not become clean because the floors shine. It becomes clean when nobody has to hide what was done to them. No one moved. Sunlight flooded the foyer. For once, it did not make the mansion look beautiful. It made every hidden thing visible. Baek Yanri stared at the notebook in her brother's hands as if paper had betrayed her. This is ridiculous, she said. You are letting a maid write history now. Du Huan closed the notebook slowly.
No.
I am letting the house answer. Yanri laughed, but the sound broke halfway. Her cheek was still flushed, her eyes bright with humiliation, but the room had shifted against her. A few minutes earlier, she had been the injured daughter of the house. Now she was a woman caught on camera grabbing a worker, insulting her, raising her hand, and then expecting blood to erase evidence. She hit me, Yanri said again, softer this time, as if repetition could restore power. Du Huan looked at her wrist, glittering with diamonds. Then at Amara's wrist, marked red from Yanri's nails. Our mother had 5 rules for this house, he said. The family went quiet. No one liked when he mentioned his mother. She had been the last person they all feared without pretending. No staff humiliation.
No en paz labor.
No touching workers. No family member above house law. No blood excuse for cruelty. Yanri's lips trembled with anger. Those were old rules. No, Du Huan said. They were the last decent thing this family inherited. Uncle Mun-sik stepped forward. Du Huan, enough. Your sister made a mistake. Do not let one incident. One incident. Du Huan turned toward the screen still glowing with weeks of footage. You watched her make cruelty a routine. She is your sister. That made her responsibility greater, not smaller. Yanri's face twisted. You would shame your own blood for her? Amara did not move. She had heard that word too many times in too many houses.
Blood.
Family, name, heritage. Words often used by people who wanted protection from consequences, but never responsibility for harm. Du Huan pointed toward Yanri. Mansion access revoked. Family cards frozen. Drivers cancelled. Guest privileges suspended. You will not enter any Beck property without written clearance. Yanri went pale. You cannot do that. I already have. Munsik's voice hardened. You are making enemies inside your own family. Du Huan looked at him next. Then I should finally know where they stand. The foyer doors remained open behind the relatives, sunlight pouring in like judgment. Du Huan's voice dropped. Blood is not a shield in my house. It is a responsibility you failed. Yanri's tears came for real then. Not from remorse. From losing access. And the difference was visible to everyone. Uncle Munsik had always looked too polished to be desperate. That was why his panic interested Du Huan. Attorney Han opened the second folder. Numbers replaced emotion. Fake luxury linen contracts. Renovation invoices for rooms never touched. Imported wine inventory signed out under charity event codes, then resold privately. Antique art crates removed for restoration and redirected through a warehouse linked to Munsik's driver. Staff overtime approved on paper but never paid. Ghost employees listed beneath household payroll. Flower budgets for foundation dinners diverted to Yanri's private events. The family's outrage thinned into silence. Munsik adjusted his cuff. This is administrative confusion. Attorney Han placed 3 photographs on the marble console. Then your confusion has a warehouse, a resale account, and your assistant's signature. Munsik's jaw tightened. He turned suddenly toward Amara. And you trust her? A foreign maid with a notebook? She could have fabricated half of this after snooping through private rooms. Du Huan's eyes did not leave him. Careful. Munsik ignored the warning. She came here needing money. People like that notice opportunity. Amara felt the insult like cold water, but she did not answer quickly. She stepped forward only after the room had time to hear what he had said. I noticed opportunity, yes, she said. The opportunity to write down what everyone else was too afraid to say. Attorney Han lifted Amara's notebook. The entries match camera timestamps, inventory logs, repair invoices, staff schedules, and warehouse movements. Munsik's mouth opened. No sound came.
Du Van stepped closer.
How many people did you make afraid so they would stop looking at numbers? For the first time, Munsik looked old. Not wise. Just exposed. He tried one final tactic. You will destroy this family. Du Huan looked around the foyer at the relatives who had lived off his name, mocked his staff, and called theft tradition because it wore expensive shoes.
No, he said.
I am finding out what is left of it. 2 legal investigators entered through the side entrance, with quiet professionalism.
No sirens. No spectacle. No shouting.
Only consequences, dressed neatly. Munsik looked toward Yanri, as if she might save him. She looked away. Cruelty had kept the staff frightened, but fear had also kept records. And records, once opened, had no loyalty. After the relatives were escorted out, Jayawilmaru estate sounded different. Not peaceful. Emptier. The foyer still smelled of flowers and polished stone, but the air no longer carried the same invisible command to swallow pain. Du Huan asked Amara to meet him in the east sitting room with Attorney Han and Mrs. Jiam present. Amara entered carefully. She expected dismissal softened by money. Instead, Du Huan stood when she came in. I owe you compensation, he said. Paid leave. Security if needed. Formal apology. A promotion if you want one. Amara listened. The offers were fair. Maybe even generous. But something in her resisted the shape of them. Reward could become another kind of silence if it was only given to the person brave enough to bleed in public. With respect, she said, do not reward me for surviving a house you allowed to frighten people. Mrs. Jiam lowered her eyes. Attorney Han's pen paused. Du Huan accepted the words without defense. You are right. Amara had not expected that. He continued, I saw signs. I moved slowly because I wanted proof strong enough to defeat family denial. Proof should not require staff to be wounded first. No, he said. It should not. That answer changed the room more than money would have. Amara unfolded a page from her notebook. If this house changes only for me, nothing changes. Staff need a protection charter. Anonymous reporting outside family control. Independent camera review. Direct wage audit. No family order without supervisor logging. No touching staff. No private errands disguised as work. Restitution for stolen overtime. Education support for staff families. Du Huan looked at Attorney Han. Draft it. Amara added, not a scholarship in my brother's name. A staff family education fund. My brother should not be turned into your apology display. Du Huan's gaze returned to her. You have thought about this. I have cleaned rooms where people thought I could not think. A faint pain crossed his face. Then respect. The fund will cover staff families across every Beck property. Mrs. Giam finally spoke. And staff should help design the rules.
Duva nodded.
Then they will. Amara looked out through the window, where the family cars were finally gone. She had not been rescued. That mattered. She had been heard. And there was a difference. 3 weeks later, Beck Du Huan invited selected relatives back to Jayawalmaru estate. The invitation was not forgiveness. It was a boundary written in gold-edged stationery. Family dinner. 1 evening. New house rules apply. No private staff orders. No direct insults.
No entering restricted rooms. No path favors.
No family accounts without review. Staff addressed by name. Violations and the visit immediately. The dining room looked magnificent under candlelight, but the atmosphere was careful. Relatives entered like guests now, not owners. That alone changed the house. Staff did not scatter when they arrived. They did not lower their eyes as quickly. Each order passed through Mrs. Giam's station. Every request was logged. Amara supervised the room in a black formal estate uniform, dignified and composed. Then Yanri arrived.
No entourage.
No diamonds loud enough to replace confidence. She looked smaller without the mansion automatically making room for her. She approached Du Huan first. Appa, I wanted to say. He stopped her. You wronged Amara. Do not apologize upward, because consequences came for me. The room went silent. Yanri's face burned. For a moment, pride nearly won. Then she turned. Amara stood near the sideboard, still as carved wood. Yanri bowed. Not deeply, not beautifully, but enough to show effort fighting habit. I was cruel to you, Yanri said. I used this house to make you feel small. I am sorry. Amara studied her. The apology did not fix the wrist, or the insults, or the months of swallowed anger. An apology, Amara said, is not a key back into my peace. Yanri swallowed. I understand. Start there. Dinner continued under the new rules. A cousin began to snap his fingers for water, caught himself, and said, Excuse me, may I please have? Before looking embarrassed, Mrs. Giam nearly smiled. By the final course, the mansion felt strange. Still wealthy, still powerful, but less poisoned by entitlement. From the doorway, Mrs. Giam watched Amara move through the room with quiet authority. Then she whispered, almost to herself, Now the house is finally clean. Amara heard her, and for the first time in months, she believed the words might become true. The consequences did not end at the foyer doors. Munsik faced legal and financial penalties after investigators traced the missing funds through warehouses, false vendors, and resale accounts. Yanri lost mansion privileges, family cards, drivers, and her place on every household committee. If she wanted any path back into trust, she had to complete restitution work connected to staff welfare, not perform charity for cameras, but sit with the people her behavior had harmed and learn what labor cost when it was not protected by diamonds. The staff protection charter spread beyond Jayawalmaru estate. Every Beck property received new rules. Independent reporting, wage audits, family conduct agreements, education support, restitution, real consequences for guests who mistreated workers. Amara was promoted to estate standards director. The title felt too large at first. Then she remembered every room where she had been treated as if thinking belonged to people upstairs. She accepted. Her brother and Kem received support through the Staff Family Education Fund, along with drivers' children, kitchen assistants' nieces, housekeepers' sons, and security guards' daughters. No one called it charity. Amara made sure of that.
It was repayment.
Months later, she stood in the same marble foyer where everything had broken open. Golden sunlight poured across the floors again. The chandeliers shone. The doors stood wide for new staff orientation. This time, the workers entered through the main foyer, not the side corridor. Du-Hwan joined her quietly. For a while, they watched the new staff receive their handbooks, contracts, and direct reporting cards. I thought kicking them out would clean the house, he said. Amara looked at the open doors.
No.
That only open the windows. Cleaning takes work. He turned to her. Then teach the house how to stay clean. She met his eyes. There was no ownership in his voice.
No pity.
Only respect heavy enough to build on. I will, she said. But every house resists the broom. For the first time that day, Du-Hwan smiled. Then we will make stronger brooms. Amara laughed softly. The sound rose into the foyer without fear. The black maid slapped back because her dignity had been touched one time too many. But the real shock was not her hand. It was the Korean boss closing the mansion doors on his own family and finally proving that blood means nothing when it protects cruelty.